Life is a tapestry woven from the threads of fate. Threads that are never pulled at random, but always carry a profound meaning beyond what the eye can see. There are rare moments when someone steps into your world, not as a mere passerby, but as a messenger sent from the divine. They carry within them the light of truth, a final warning before the shadow of judgment descends, consuming what remains of pride and blindness. But what happens when that light is scorned? What happens when that call is cast into the void, buried beneath the ashes of complacency? This is not just a story about those who refuse to see the truth. This is a story about unchanging justice, about the unbreakable laws of the universe, and about the price one must pay for daring to challenge the will of the Creator. Today we embark on a journey through the darkened landscapes of the soul, where arrogance meets its inevitable reckoning. This is not just their story. It may be a mirror reflecting your own, a reminder that no action, no choice escapes the gaze of eternal justice. Listen well, for these words are not merely sounds, they carry the weight of timeless truth. Nothing in this vast universe happens without purpose. When you step into someone's life, it is not a random occurrence, not a mere coincidence between two wandering souls. It is a divine appointment, an intention etched into the foundation of creation by the hands of the Almighty. You are not a meaningless speck drifting in the wind. You are a living sign, a flame ignited to illuminate the path for those lost in the darkness of their own making. You carry within you a compassion as gentle as a stream flowing through a barren desert, a love as unconditional as sunlight piercing through dense clouds, and a patience as unwavering as a mountain standing firm against raging storms. Yet they, the ones you shine upon, choose to turn away. They look upon your kindness and scoff, calling it weakness, like the blind who fail to recognize the beauty of dawn even as it unfolds before their very eyes. They see your love as a cheap trinket, something to be crushed and discarded once they have grown bored. Your patience, the precious gift you offer, is mistaken for permission, an invitation for them to continue down the road that leads to the abyss. In their minds, you are not a bearer of light, you are merely an obstacle, a foolish soul daring to stand between them and the insatiable desires they worship as gods. They believe they can manipulate you like a puppet upon their stage, bending you to their will and casting you into the shadows once they are done. They imagine themselves as masters of the game, little gods ruling over their own kingdoms where no law of man or heaven can reach them. But they are mistaken. A mistake so grave, so unforgivable, every contemptuous glance they throw your way, every lie they speak to conceal the truth, every wound they carve into your heart, all are recorded in the unseen pages of eternal justice. No action escapes the watchful eyes of the one who sees all. No word vanishes into the void without leaving a mark. You are not just another figure passing through their life. You are the final flame, the last beacon of hope before the darkness engulfs them completely. You are the embodiment of grace they do not deserve, the last chance for them to look into the mirror and change before the storm of reckoning arrives. But they have chosen rejection. They slam the door shut, extinguish the flame, and walk away with arrogance painted across their faces, unaware that every step forward brings them closer to the day they will face the consequences. In rejecting you, they are not merely rejecting a person, they are rejecting the very will of God, and from that moment, the wheels of justice begin to turn, slowly, silently, but with an unstoppable force. The proud do not live in reality, they dwell in a castle built of lies, a fortress that seems impenetrable but is in truth nothing more than dust waiting to crumble. They crown themselves as kings without thrones, as invincible warriors who believe they are beyond the reach of any law, earthly or divine. They move through life with a rare arrogance, convinced they can sow deceit, betrayal and suffering without ever facing the harvest. In their eyes, you, the one who carries the light of truth, are nothing more than a faint shadow, a weak figure, unworthy of their gaze. They lull themselves into the belief that power is the reward for those who do not hesitate to trample others in their climb to the top. They silence the voice of conscience as easily as a cold wind snuffs out a feeble candle, convincing themselves that no consequences await them ahead. They do not see the hand of justice raised, for it does not strike immediately, and in their blindness they mock the very notion of a higher order, believing themselves to be the masters of fate, beyond the limits of morality or the sacred. But God's justice is not a fire that instantly erupts, consuming everything in a flash. It is a silent storm, gathering strength beyond the distant horizon, where thick, dark clouds churn unnoticed. Every wicked seed they sow, every lie they whisper to obscure the truth, every heart they break to serve their own ego, is another thread tightening around their soul. They mistake God's patience for weakness, believing that because judgment has not yet arrived, it never will. But they forget an immutable truth. No one mocks the will of the Creator without paying the price. They build their thrones upon the foundation of deception, unaware that the very stones they stack will become their tomb. Every time they push you away, every time they scoff at your kindness, they lay another brick in the wall that will soon collapse upon them. They think they have won by casting you out of their lives, but that is not victory. It is the prelude to their greatest downfall. Their arrogance is a rope, and every misstep tightens the noose. A noose they tie around themselves, unaware that they are digging the grave for their own soul. That day will come, not with the blare of sirens or blinding flashes of light, but with the dreadful silence of perfect justice. They will stand amidst the ruins of what they have built, looking back at the opportunities they rejected, the warnings they ignored, and they will finally understand that no throne, no power can shield them from the hand of truth. The invincibility they once boasted was nothing more than an illusion that will vanish when the light of final judgment shines upon them. You are not a nameless figure in the tangled play of their lives. You are a chosen messenger, a flame ignited by the hand of the Creator to illuminate the darkened paths they have strayed upon. God did not send you by accident, nor place you amidst their chaos without purpose. You are the mirror reflecting the truth they refuse to face, the lighthouse in the storm of arrogance and deceit, the final call for them to turn back before the door of salvation closes forever. Look into the sacred chronicles and see that your presence was foretold long ago. Noah stood among the corrupt, raising the banner of warning before the great flood swept everything away. Moses entered Pharaoh's palace with an unshakable command from God, confronting the hardened heart of a prideful king. Jonah walked through the streets of Nineveh, carrying a plea for repentance in a city drowning in sin. And you, in this era, in a world filled with noise and chaos, are the heir to those messengers. You do not need a crown or a prophet's robe. Your strength lies in a sincere heart, in unwavering love, in patience that withstands every trial they cast upon you. You have given them what they never deserved: compassion when they only knew cruelty, forgiveness when they only knew betrayal, steadfast presence when they only knew abandonment. You are the light they cannot bear, for it exposes the emptiness within them, an emptiness they mask with layers of arrogance and lies spun from self-satisfaction. You stand not to condemn, but to save, not to punish, but to open a way out of the darkness they have imprisoned themselves in. But they refused. They chose to turn away, to embrace pride instead of humility, darkness instead of light, their own ego instead of the truth you represent. When they rejected you, they did not merely cast a person out of their lives. They shut God Himself out of the doorway of their soul. They did not realize that you were the final bridge leading them to safety, the last flame that could guide them out of the labyrinth of self-destruction. When they burned that bridge, when they extinguished that flame, they did not merely reject an opportunity, they rejected their own destiny. From that moment, darkness was no longer just their choice. It became their fate, a fate engraved by their own hands, a fate from which they will never escape, no matter how hard they try. When a person rejects God's warning, they do not merely lose you, they lose the fortress of protection that He had built around them through your presence. At first, they do not feel this loss. They walk away with arrogant eyes, believing they have won, that erasing you from their life was a decision without consequence. They scoff at the idea that your absence could leave any mark in their small world, a world they believe they have complete control over. But justice does not arrive with thunderous roars or sudden flames from above. It comes in silence, like a cold wind slipping through the unseen cracks they never realized were there. Cracks begin to form, not as great fractures demanding immediate attention, but as subtle gaps, weaving themselves into every corner of their life. The people who once stood by their side now turn away, their gazes filled with doubt instead of the admiration they once took for granted. Doors of opportunity that once stood wide open now close, leaving them standing alone in a thickening isolation. They feel an emptiness, a loss they cannot name, a void without explanation, without form, yet as heavy as a stone, pressing upon their soul, making each breath more burdensome. They search for substitutes, chasing after new faces, hollow pleasures, fleeting distractions. But nothing can replicate the light you once brought. They have lost a blessing that cannot be replaced, a gift whose value they only realize when it has already vanished into nothingness. Your presence was once a cool breeze amid the scorching heat of their life, a fire that warmed them in the cold loneliness, but now they are left with only emptiness, an emptiness that no wealth, no power, no lies can ever fill. Regret comes like a thief in the night. Without knocking, without asking permission, it creeps in during moments of stillness when the noise of the outside world fades, leaving them face to face with themselves. No masks, no shell of arrogance to hide behind. They remember you, your gentleness in their storms, your steadfastness in their chaos, your love in the face of their cold indifference. They look back and see the moments where they could have chosen differently, the opportunities they could have embraced, the words you spoke that they dismissed as mere whispers in the wind. And then, like a wave crashing against the rocks, truth comes with an undeniable force. They see it all. Their foolishness in thinking they could walk away without consequences, their arrogance in believing they were above all laws, the chances they so carelessly discarded with a smirk of disdain. But when the light of realization shines, it does not bring hope. It brings the agony of being too late. The door has closed, sealed by their own hands, and now they stand among the ashes of what could have been. A life that could have been whole, a soul that could have been saved, if only they had chosen to listen. They once believed you were just a grain of sand in the vast desert of their life, something easily replaced, a short-lived chapter that could be closed without leaving a trace in their memory. They thought that after pushing you out of their world, they would find others, people easier to control, easier to manipulate, willing to bow before the throne of pride they had built. They assumed life would continue flowing like an endless river, that your absence would be nothing more than a minor ripple in its course. But reality has proven them wrong, so devastatingly wrong. As they move forward, they discover an emptiness that cannot be filled. Not with gold, not with power, not with the lies they use to lull themselves to sleep. They meet new people, but no one carries the depth of sincerity you once gave. They search for the peace you brought as an unspoken gift, but it remains a distant mirage, disappearing the moment they try to grasp it. They attempt to recreate what they have lost, the warmth of trust, the gentle presence, the light that could not be extinguished. But every effort is in vain, like trying to hold water in the palm of their hands. What they abandoned was not just a person, it was the presence of divine grace, a gift that cannot be copied or replaced by anything under the heavens. Regret becomes their constant companion, not a friend offering comfort, but a silent tormentor, gnawing at their mind in the darkest hours. It does not scream, does not announce itself, it follows them quietly, like a shadow in the sleepless nights, in the lonely moments when there is no one left to blame but themselves. They may try to return, sending weak signals in an attempt to find their way back, a casual remark, a fleeting glance. But they do not understand that when God removes someone from your life, it is not a temporary separation, it is a final judgment, etched in stone. unchangeable by any plea or tear they may shed. They have sealed that door with their own hands, and now they must live with the punishment they have chosen, a life devoid of light, a soul imprisoned in eternal emptiness. They search for you in every face they encounter, in every voice they hear, but they will never find you. For what they have lost is not just you, but the very salvation they scorn. Their punishment is not a fire from the heavens or a thunderous reckoning. It is the terrifying silence of a life stripped of meaning, a soul abandoned in the desert of its own making, left with nothing but the echoes of lost opportunities. While they sink into the darkness of their own creation, you are lifted upon the wings of deliverance. You do not need to stand there, watching their downfall or waiting for an apology that will never come. Your mission is complete. You were the lighthouse in their storm, the final warning before the waves of fate swept everything away. You brought light into the darkness, offered grace to those who did not cherish it, and now you are free to walk forward, unshackled from the chains of the past, unburdened by the ruins they built with their own hands. God's justice does not require your intervention. It moves in silence with an unstoppable force, like water eroding stone, wearing down all resistance over time. Those who rejected you must live with the painful truth that they once had everything, a blessing, an escape, a chance to become a better version of themselves, and they carelessly cast it into the wind. Their punishment is not an immediate destruction from above, but an unquenchable fire within, a regret that never fades, a realization that they chose darkness over light, and now they must dwell in that darkness for the rest of their days. But you do not need to look back. What God has removed was never meant to return. You do not need to stand amidst their ashes. You do not need to carry the weight of their regret. You do not need to prove anything to anyone. Your victory is not found in revenge or validation. It is in your ability to move forward, leaving them to the fate they chose. You are the embodiment of light that cannot be subdued, the proof that God's grace is never wasted. Even when it is rejected, it finds another place to shine. This is the ultimate truth. No one escapes the hand of God's justice. What is sown in arrogance will be reaped in ruin, not by human strength, but by the will of the one who governs all things. They will stand amidst their own wreckage, looking back at you with the agony of realization, but you will have already moved on, walking a path bathed in light, far beyond the reach of their darkness. You are the fire they could not extinguish, the warning they could not erase, and the proof that light always prevails, even when darkness refuses to see it. And then, when the dust has settled, when the echoes of their wrong choices fade into silence, a new truth will emerge, not in destruction, but in renewal. God's justice is not only an end, it is a threshold, a boundary between the eternal darkness of those who rejected the light and a new beginning for those who carried it into the storm. They, the ones who turned away from you, will remain imprisoned in the walls they built for themselves, but you were never meant to be buried in their ruins. You were meant to rise, like fresh grass breaking through the ashes, like the dawn dispelling an endless night. Imagine this scene. They stand amidst the ashes of the kingdom of pride they once worshipped, their hands empty, their eyes blurred with belated tears. They look around, searching for a trace of you, a shadow, a voice, a final glimmer of hope to pull them back from the abyss they dug for themselves. But you are no longer there. Your absence is not a void for them to fill. It is a verdict, a permanent reminder that what they rejected can never be reclaimed. They will live in that darkness, not because God is cruel, but because they chose it. They chose solitude over companionship, emptiness over wholeness, their own ego over the gift of salvation you carried. But their darkness is not the only story. On the other side of judgment, another story is being written. Your story, the story of a light that could not be extinguished. As they sink into the cold silence of regret, you step out of the storm, not with the scars of defeat, but with the strength of a soul refined by fire. God did not send you to be destroyed. He sent you to be purified, to become an even brighter, stronger, and more radiant flame. Your patience, your love, your kindness, the very things they mocked and dismissed, have now become the foundation for a new life, a life no longer bound by their smallness or their darkness. Look to nature and see the image of this truth. After a devastating wildfire, the ashes are not the end, they become nourishment for new life. You are that new life, rising from the ruins they left behind, not to seek revenge, not to prove anything, but to become the embodiment of a higher purpose they will never comprehend. While they remain trapped in the endless cycle of regret, you walk a new path, a path illuminated by a light they could never extinguish, guided by the hand of the one who chose you from the very beginning. They will never understand this, not in this lifetime, not as long as their souls remain bound by the chains of arrogance. They will look back at you, not as a faint memory, but as a ghost of what they lost, a ghost that brings not comfort, but torment. Every time they remember you, they will feel the weight of the closed door, the echo of the words you once spoke that they marked, and the emptiness of a life they no longer have the power to change. That is their eternal darkness, not the flames of hell or the thunder from above, but the cold solitude of a soul that rejected the light when it was within reach. But your light, that light does not die. It does not fade when they turn their backs. It is protected by God, nourished by His will, and now it burns brighter than ever before. You were not merely a messenger in their story. You are the guiding flame in your own, a fire that will continue to illuminate other paths, touch other souls, and bring hope to places where darkness once reigned. Your rebirth is not an accident. It is the intention of the Creator, a testament that light is never defeated, even when it is scorned by blind eyes. And so, while they remain forever imprisoned in the shadows of their own making, you soar on the wings of freedom. They will never see the beauty of the road you walk, never hear the song of liberation that now sings within your soul. But that no longer matters, because your story is no longer theirs to witness. It belongs to you, to the light you carry, and to the one who has destined you for a fate far beyond anything they could ever imagine. They have chosen eternal darkness, but you are the embodiment of renewal, the flame that never dies, the living testament that God's justice not only punishes the wicked, but also lifts and honors those who remain faithful to His light.